Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode, we will meet a new lawyer and they will share stories of when they went beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samlin. I'm the principal of Samlin Wealth, a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, their firms, and their clients. And let's applaud lawyers who care and learn from them. Today, my guest is Olga Sandler from Crandon Law. Olga is a corporate lawyer focusing on emerging companies, and she represents both startups and investors. And she has taken on numerous emerging companies and their investors through all stages of development, from formation to financing rounds and successful exits. And she is based in New York City. Welcome, Olga.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Great. So, Olga, tell us about how you came to the law.
I did not want to be a lawyer. When I was graduating from university, people who are my classmates went to law school because they just didn't know what they wanted to do. So I actually went to grad school to study economics. And as I was figuring out my next steps, I saw an article by a partner of a large international firm who just opened the first McDonald's in Russia. And I called him up and said, "Do you need somebody for the summer? I'd like to see what it's like to practice law." And being in Paris, of course, never hurts too. So I spent a wonderful summer in Paris, sitting in the named partner's office and seeing actually what lawyers do. And I loved it. So I went to law school, spent 20 years on Wall Street doing billion-dollar deals all over the world. But the market has really changed the last 15 years. And it's not just .com in Silicon Valley, but the emerging companies becoming more and more important for U.S. economy, for the world economy. And it's a wonderful experience helping somebody start with an idea and then take them from all stages of development, organizing the company, explaining how the company works, introducing them to investors, and really accompanying them on the journey from becoming, an idea to a successful exit. And on the founder side, also, we're on the side of the aisle, so to speak. So we also work with a lot of funds who invest in startups. So it helps us also to represent founders because we know what investors want.
So it has to be a huge jump for that founder to say, "Okay, Olga, you're taking me on the next leg. I did all of this work before. This is my baby." Because other than their family, it's probably the most important thing they've ever done. And now they have to trust Olga to take them on the next steps. How do you manage that? I'll use the term anxiety, but how do you? Or we'll use the term expectation. How's that? How do you handle that expectation?
Yeah, I think it's really important to develop a personal relationship with a client and understand, what the concerns are. But it's a balancing act. I think I'm there to explain how a client can protect himself or herself, but at the same time, it's really important not to focus so much about protection and making everything they do so complicated that investors will not touch the company. For example, if there are founders, there should be a basic trust among founders. No investor wants to invest in a divorce. And when they see highly complicated agreements that, it's appropriate maybe for $1 billion deal where you think through every possible scenario of how things can go wrong. But if you don't have basic trust in the beginning, it's probably not the best combination to have your founders where you cannot trust. And everybody's seen Facebook and they know movie Facebook, and they know what can happen, how you can get kicked out of the company. But it's really kind of the best medicine best way to ensure that you don't lose your company is being critical to the company. And necessarily, as much as I hate to say it, legal documents are not necessarily what will protect you. It's really your ability to be critical, understand which role you're best suited. And sometimes, yes, you're the CEO and you're going to be the CEO for a long time, but sometimes you want to get a COO who will help you with the business side and you can focus, on the scientific side. Or, if you're developing new medication, this is what you should focus on because that's your strength, and then have somebody who with a more business background assume a more business role. And this is what we're there for. We've done this with thousands of companies. And it's really what it boils down to is, focus on your great idea, but from the legal perspective, make it as simple and as standard as possible, because all the investors want to hear is from their lawyer is, yes, I've seen these documents, no red flags. If you have
It's
super
interesting
complicated,
because it's very interesting. There was a saying back in the day, when prospectuses used to be printed, and they said if the prospectus was so thick that if you threw it against the wall, it would make it to the other wall, you shouldn't invest in it because it's too big, it's too complicated, there's too many disclosures, and it just can't work. I'm assuming that's kind of the mantra that you're kind of.
so supposedly, I think there is a standard for this particular niche in the market of what the legal documents should look like. Everybody starts with the same document, and the reason is it's sort of middle of the road, with some variations. Yes, you have to adjust them for a particular situation, what's important to the company, what's important to the investor, but it's the main goal is to make it very efficient, very transparent, and quick, and not complicated.
So first off, that's a superb piece of advice. And I'm wondering, what are the common mistakes do founders and investors make in this space? Or I guess the corollary would be, what advice would you give them to not do?
Well, I think for investors, it's a flip side. Every investor would like maximum amount of protection when they're investing in the company, which is fine. But again, you have to think that this is a particular niche. This is not an M&A deal where sometimes you have third parties that is going to give you protection. Here, you're investing and you're becoming a part of the company. If you're trying to get the maximum, the most aggressive provisions into the document, you have to remember next time, next round, you're going to be the company. You are the one who has to stand behind all of these super aggressive provisions. And the next investor, they're not going to dial it back. They will only ask for more. And sometimes you see that where people engage in lawyer Olympics and say, oh, we're going to get just the maximum, the maximum, the maximum. And you're essentially putting your client, investor, in the maximum exposure on the next round. So it's a kind of a simple thing, but it's amazing, how often we deal with very aggressive behavior and does not necessarily serve the investor in future rounds.
Got it. Oh, lawyer Olympics. Did you trademark that term? Because it's funny.
I think I have been known to engage in it on some cases. Occasionally it's fun, but there's a time and place for everything, and especially in for emerging companies where the budgets are very tight. You have to be super efficient, super quick. It's not the place or the time.
What two pieces of advice would you give founders? What would you advise them not to do?
As I said, don't be too complicated. And have a good relation. Start your company with people you trust. With people who, even if they decide to do something else, they will support the company going forward. and be critical to the company. That's the most important thing. It's your product and your role in the company that will protect you the most.
So again, thanks to my guest, Olga Sandler from Crandon Law. For those guests that want to contact you, Olga, can you provide our audience with your contact information?
Yeah, my number is 917-848-8279. And my email is Olga at crandonlaw.com.
Excellent. Everyone, this has been the Lawyers Who Care video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. If you're an attorney or know one that does go above and beyond, feel free to reach out to us, 914-666-6600, 914-666-6600. Olga, thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.